Jihad, Misconceptions and Historical Realities. Jihad, a term that sparks interest, debate, and often misunderstanding. For centuries, the word has been used and misused, its meaning changing with time and context. But what does jihad truly signify? Is it a call to violence, as often portrayed in the modern world, or a broader, multifaceted term rooted in personal and spiritual growth? In today's video, we aim to uncover the evolution of jihad, exploring its origins, historical interpretations, and the modern misconceptions that have distorted its essence. By understanding the historical realities of jihad, we can begin to challenge stereotypes and appreciate the rich intellectual traditions within Islam. The term jihad originates from the Arabic word jahada, which translates to struggle or effort. In early Islamic teachings, jihad was a multidimensional concept with spiritual, ethical, and societal implications. The idea of jihad is often divided into two categories. Greater jihad refers to the internal spiritual struggle every Muslim undertakes to become a better person, overcome personal weaknesses, and live a righteous life. This includes dedication to moral behaviors, adherence to faith, and personal self-improvement. Lesser jihad, on the other hand, encompasses external struggles, such as the defense of the Muslim community, ummah, in times of persecution or attack. Within the Quran and teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, there are strict ethical guidelines governing jihad. Any form of conflict was to be defensive in nature, and acts like harming innocent civilians, damaging property, or committing violence without just cause were strictly prohibited. Early Islamic history showcases this principle, where jihad often emphasized protecting the community rather than waging offensive war. Thus, from its inception, jihad was far more nuanced than the militant interpretation it is often reduced to today. It was a holistic framework that guided Muslims in both personal and collective growth, balancing internal virtue with external responsibilities. As Islam expanded beyond the Arabian Peninsula, the nature of jihad adapted to changing circumstances. While the spiritual and defensive elements of jihad remained central, historical events shaped its interpretations in each era. During the time of the Rashidun Caliphate, jihad was employed primarily as a tool for the defense and consolidation of the rapidly growing Muslim community. Early Muslims faced external threats from the Byzantine and Persian empires, among others, which necessitated a form of collective struggle to sustain their existence. In some cases, jihad also came to be associated with military conflicts aimed at territorial expansion. However, it would be reductive to view these actions purely through the lens of religion. Political ambitions, economic necessities, and geopolitical considerations were often at play. While religious language was used to justify certain campaigns, these conflicts also reflected the broader dynamics of empire building common across civilizations during that time. Local contexts also influenced how jihad was practiced and understood. For example, in some Islamic empires, leaders emphasized jihad as the promotion of justice and the establishment of social order rather than military conquest. As a result, its definition continued to evolve, shaped by the needs and pressures faced by Muslim societies in different periods. By the 18th and 19th centuries, the geopolitical landscape shifted dramatically, especially as European colonial powers began asserting dominance over Muslim-majority regions. During this era, the concept of jihad took on new significance, often becoming a rallying cry for anti-colonial resistance movements. In many parts of the world, jihad was reframed as a struggle for liberation and self-determination. For instance, in Africa, leaders like Umar Tall of Senegal and the leaders of the Sokoto Caliphate invoked jihad as a way to unite communities against colonial oppression. Similarly, in South Asia, jihad became pivotal in mobilizing resistance against the expanding British Empire. This period underscored how historically fluid the concept of jihad has been. It was no longer restricted to its original theological framework, but was recontextualized as a tool for political and social emancipation. However, colonial powers, eager to undermine resistance, often demonized jihad, laying the groundwork for some of the modern fears and stereotypes around the term. In recent decades, the term jihad has been heavily politicized, distorted, and weaponized, both by extremist fringe groups and by the global media. For many, the word provokes images of violence, terrorism, and extremism, interpretations far removed from its historical roots. Extremist organizations have exploited the term to justify heinous acts of violence, often using out-of-context religious texts or highly selective interpretations. These groups represent a tiny minority within the Muslim world, but their actions have cast a long shadow, overshadowing the vast majority of Muslims who view jihad as a personal or peaceful pursuit. Media narratives have further entrenched these misconceptions. Sensationalist coverage and one-dimensional portrayals often equate jihad entirely with terrorism, ignoring its broader meanings and the diversity of thought within Islam. Such narratives feed into widespread stereotypes about Islam and its followers, creating a cycle of misunderstanding and fear. It's important to recognize that the actions of extremist groups are not representative of mainstream Islamic beliefs. The overwhelming majority of Muslims reject violence and view jihad in its ethical, spiritual, and communal dimensions. The modern discourse on jihad cannot be separated from its geopolitical context. Events such as Western interventions in the Middle East, the fallout from colonial borders, and enduring political instability in Muslim-majority countries have all contributed to the complexities surrounding jihad today. Poverty, lack of education, and political marginalization have created conditions in which extremist ideologies can take root. In some cases, disenfranchised groups latch on to distorted interpretations of jihad as a way to assert their agency in an unjust or unstable world. On a global level, cultural and economic globalization has introduced new challenges. Miscommunications between East and West, coupled with cultural differences and historical grievances, have amplified mistrust and misinterpretation. Within this fraught landscape, the term jihad has often been a casualty, oversimplified and removed from its holistic context. In recent years, many Muslim scholars, leaders, and organizations have made concerted efforts to reclaim the true essence of jihad, emphasizing its spiritual and ethical dimensions. These efforts aim to challenge both the extremists who misuse the term and the broader misconceptions surrounding it. Across the world, Muslims are rediscovering jihad as a tool for personal and societal betterment. Peaceful jihads take the form of charity, education, and social activism, struggles that align with the Quranic values of justice, compassion, and humanity. An example of such peaceful jihad is the work of many organizations advocating for social reform, environmental stewardship, and women's empowerment within Islamic frameworks. These reflect the idea of jihad as striving for good in all aspects of life, far removed from any notion of violence. Muslim-majority countries and communities are also implementing educational initiatives to dilute extremist narratives and promote a more nuanced understanding of jihad. By teaching its historical roots and diverse interpretations, these efforts help counter fear and ignorance. The challenge of reframing jihad for broader global audiences is significant but necessary. Education plays a pivotal role in reducing misconceptions and promoting informed dialogue over fear-driven stereotypes. By approaching concepts like jihad with curiosity and nuance, we can bridge cultural divides and foster understanding. Intercultural dialogue is another important avenue. Through mutual respect and open communication, societies can challenge polarizing rhetoric and learn to appreciate the shared humanity behind their differences. Initiatives that bring together scholars, historians, and leaders from diverse backgrounds are crucial in promoting a balanced perspective on complex topics such as jihad. Examples of successful intercultural dialogue include global forums on religious tolerance, platforms for Muslim and non-Muslim collaborations in addressing social challenges, and grassroots movements designed to humanize Muslims in societies where they face prejudice. Understanding an idea like jihad requires moving beyond surface-level assumptions and seeking historical and cultural context. Broad concepts evolve over time, shaped by societal needs, political pressures, and human ingenuity. Jihad, as we've seen, is no exception. When we take the time to understand jihad's historical roots and dynamic evolution, it becomes clear that it is not a one-dimensional term. Instead, It is a rich, multifaceted concept encompassing personal virtue, social justice, and collective responsibility. Through this lens, we can better understand Islam as a diverse intellectual tradition, rather than reducing it to simplistic stereotypes. Jihad is a concept that defies easy definitions. It is at once personal and collective, spiritual and practical, historical and contemporary. From its origins in early Islamic society to its distortion in modern political rhetoric, jihad reflects the complexities of human history and the ways in which ideas evolve. By exploring the misconceptions and historical realities of jihad, we can foster greater awareness and encourage meaningful dialogue. In doing so, we take an important step toward building a world that values understanding over ignorance, nuance over fear, and unity over division.